Hello everyone, so in this video I'm going to show you how to create Breadcrumbs component in Next.js application. As you can see in here, this is basically just the demo of the app. If I click the product, as you can see we have home and then just the SVG icon in here and then product. As you can see the product is active, right? I can click, for example, the category electronics. I can go to the gaming laptop. As you can see, now we have this Breadcrumbs on the top right here, home, products, electronics, and laptop. Right, I can go back to products. Here we go. I can go to the post in here, go to detail of the blog post. Here we go. Right, this is active. This is basically what we're gonna learn in this video. Super simple to create your own Breadcrumbs component. So let's get started. All right, so let's generate a brand new Next.js application. I'm gonna call that my Breadcrumbs application. You can just naming whatever you want. TypeScript, I'm gonna say yes. ESLint, yes. Tailwind CSS, I think I'm gonna say yes. Source, just say no. App router, yes. Turbo pack, yes. Import alias, I'm gonna say no. All right, it's done. So we can cd to the my Breadcrumbs app folder and just open that in my beautiful VS Code. All right, so first we are going to working with the UI stuff. After the UI done, we are gonna working with the Breadcrumbs. All right. So let's try to open the layout, which is the root of our Next.js application here. I just want to remove all these children and just paste this nav. As you can see, we have nav with the background gray 800 and this heading 1. And also we have the main tag, right? And then we have the maximal width and MX auto and the padding. Just super simple. So let's try to run it. npm run dev. And then I'm going to open the page.tsx file. And then just try to remove everything here. Just try to say heading 1, just say hello, save. Let's take a look at the result on the browser. I'm going to refresh this final project. Let's take a look at the result. Here we go. As you can see, we have this Breadcrumbs demo navigation on the top and the hello text right here. That's what we want. So I just want to paste this content here. Just super simple. You can just find the code on the description. I just want to paste that just to make it this tutorial super fast, right? So let me just try to show you everything in here. All right, I hope you can see that. The first in here, we have the heading 1, super simple heading. And then here we have the div, right? This div is basically wrapping to another div as a children in here that have space y2 for us. You can see in this div, we have the product, all right? Product, all product, and then electronics and laptop. This is just for link example. When I click that, the all product, it will go through the localhost 3000/products, and then this one in here, product/electronics, and then product/electronics/laptop 1 to 3. This is just for example link. And then down here we have the all post stuff. If I click the all post, it will go to /blog. If I click this blog post, it will go to the /blog/getting started Next.js. Let's save that. Let's take a look at the result. As you can see, this is the result. If I click all product, we go to the localhost 3000/product and etc. So now what we're gonna do, let's try to create all page. So first I'm gonna create the product page. So let's create the products as a folder here, and inside that I'm gonna create page.tsx for the file of the products. And inside the product page, I just want to paste this component. Super simple. Let's just take a look at everything here. As you can see, first we need to import the Breadcrumbs component. Let's try to just create this Breadcrumbs component. Let's go to this root, and then I'm gonna do components, right? Inside that I'm gonna create breadcrumb.tsx. Let's do rfc. Let's change the name to this component here, right? Copy that name, just paste that right here. Here we go. So now we can just see this error, it should be gone. There we go, super cool. So now let's take a look at this product page component. As you can see, the first is we have the categories array, right? That have an ID and names. And we have ID electronics, and the name is electronic with capital E and etc. Super simple. And as you can see in here, it just render a div with Breadcrumbs. For now, it's just a single div right here. And inside that we have heading 1, and then also we have this div with class grid, right? And then we map through the categories in here, right? And then we have this link. So it means when I click this link, it will go through this href right here. As you can see, the href should be go to the product/category ID. It means it will go through the products/electronic or clothings or books, right? This is going to be a dynamic road basically. And also inside this link, it's basically render the heading too, right? With category.name value. And also this paragraph right here that say browse space category name. Just as it. Let's take a look at the result. If I go to all products, as you can see, we have these 3 cards basically because we have 3 value. Really simple. So now let's try to click, for example, the electronics. As you can see, now it's blank. There's no page. As you can see on the road in here, is go to products/electronics. If I go back and then click the books, right, it will go to the products/book. It means this road here should be a dynamic. So let's try to create that dynamic road inside a products page in here. To create dynamic road, we have to putting that as a array, right? Array and then category, or you can just naming whatever you want. And then inside that, we have to create page.tsx. So in this category page, I just want to copy and paste this super simple component that I'm going to explain to you. So let's try to go back first. As you can see, now we on the /products, for example, electronics, right? So in this electronics, the way we get the params category value in here, because this is dynamic, the way we getting that is we can use the params right here and we can get the categories. So if I console log the categories, we should see, for example, we on the electronics roads. That's why we should see electronics on the console, right? This one right here, electronics. If I go to the, let me just go to books. Now we have books, right? That's how we get the category params. And then as you can see in here, we create mock product data that have the ID, name, and the price. And then again, just render the breadcrumb and then the heading one. And then finally in here, map through the products, as you can see. And this is just super simple link. If I click that, it will go to the detail of the product. As you can see here, go to the product/the category /the product ID. And then this is basically the heading to product name and then the price. Super simple. Let's save that. Let's take a look. This is the result, right? It's look like this. If I go back, click the clothings, as you can see, the UI is super simple. It's same basically because we own the same file. So let's try to click the product detail right here. For example, I'm going to click the gaming laptop. As you can see now it's blank. There's no page because in here we don't have the product ID page, right? So let's try to create that. Inside the category, I'm going to create a folder called ID, right? Remember the ID page, it should be dynamic. That's why I'm going to putting that inside the array like this. And then we have to create page.tsx. Create. So in here we need to create the page product detail component. And again, I just want to copy and paste this component. Super simple. As you can see, we have product page component that grab the params. This is basically the way we get the category and the ID, right? Because now on the detail, we have the product/the category, which is clothings in this case, and the ID. So this is the way we're getting that category and the ID. And this is basically the product name. As you can see, I just removed the dash symbol in here on the product name. And that's why in here we don't have the dash, right? Just laptop space 1 to 3. So normally on the real application, you will get the name of the product from the fetch on the API, right? So you don't have to follow this one. This is just for example. So anyway, down here, it is just render the detail of the product name, category, ID, and etc. So this is the result, right? Super simple. The next thing, what we're going to do is let's try to see the console. And as you can see, we have the error in here. Let's try to see what we have on this error. So as you can see, it's a road product/category ID use params.category. So let's take a look in here. We're using params.category, right? This one right here. Param should be wait before using its property. So I think let's try to open this one here. So let's see how we can fix that issue. So this is the way we're using that, right? Just grab the params and then params.id. This is the way we're using that. Grab the params on the component and then grab the category, right? So for example, the following code will issue a warning. That's why we have the warning. So how to fix that? So let's scroll down. Possible way to fix it. So we can use this comment in here to automatically fixing that. I just want to copy this one. All right, or we can do manually. I think just change all the params using await, and I think we're done. So anyway, I just want to use the simple way to fixing that, which is we're going to use npx next what the hell is going on? So I think I just wrong. So let's just copy this one right here, not the dollar symbol. So let's try to run it again. Before we continue, please test or commit your git change. All right, we have to commit that first. Git add all, git commit initial, just to make sure everything should be fine. All right, it's basically will change the code. As you can see, it will change some on my code. As you can see here, it's basically will change the type of the component. It changed to promise, and then it changed these params using just props, and then with the props.params, just like this. And as you can see on the page.tsx on the ID as well, it will update it automatically. So now hopefully there's no error, right? So let's try to working with the block right now. So I just want to close everything, go to app in here, and try to create the block page component. So let's try to create the block folder slash page.tsx, right? On the block page, I'm going to paste this component right here. As you can see, it's called block page component, and basically have a post array that have object inside that have slug and title value. And then just like a normal, just return the breadcrumb heading one, and then map through the post array. As you can see, it just basically return a link. If I click that, it should be go to the block slash post.slug, and then just render the post.title. So let's take a look at the result. I'm going to open the all posts, and here we go, right? This is the result. If I click, it will go through the slash block slash slug of the block. Here we go. So now let's create the block slug page. Here I'm going to go to block folder, and inside that I'm going to create folder called slug, and then inside the slug folder I'm going to create page.tsx value. So what I'm going to do in here is, let's try to see, I'm going to create block post page, right? This is the way we get the slug value on the params, and then this basically will remove the dash symbol on the slug, and then make that uppercase on the first character, and then join that with space. And as you can see, the result, it should be look like this. So anyway, we're done with all the page, right? And hopefully we don't have any error. If I refresh, as you can see, there's no error. Super cool. So now let's try to working with the breadcrumb, right? So I'm gonna close every page in here and try to go back to the components and then breadcrumb component. So in here, so the idea in here is basically we need a way to create arrays like this. So I have an array, right? And inside the array, I have the object. For home, the label should be home, and the href is for slash, and the product and electronics, for example, we'll go to the product slash electronic. So this is just for example, so we can styling the breadcrumb component, right? Later, we are going to make sure that the breadcrumb should become from the real path that we click on, right? For now, it's just fine to just create a dummy breadcrumb value. So here we go. So now on the div, first thing first, because this is breadcrumb, of course, we are going to use nav, right? Nav, and then inside this nav, I'm going to make sure we have the class name, display flex, margin bottom to 6. And then inside the nav, I'm going to use OL for another list tag. And then I'm going to put a class name. I'm going to make sure it is using inline flex, item center, space x1, and for the medium, specs x to 3. And inside in here, basically, I'm going to map through all the breadcrumb array that we have in here. So let's try to map through that. Breadcrumbs.map. So in here, I'm going to grab the individual breadcrumb, which is the object right here, and also the index. And then finally, I'm going to return the li in here. So let's use li. And then for the key, I'm going to use the breadcrumb href. Here we go. So inside the li, let's try to render a link, right? The link should become from the next link that have href breadcrumb.href and the breadcrumb.label. So let's take a look at the result. as you can see here, this is the result. If I click home, we're on the home, right? So now we need a way to get the specific object for specific page. For example, we on the home. If I on the home, right? If I on the home right here, this should be just the breadcrumb. It should be just return one object. If I on the product, now the breadcrumb should be have two objects like this. If I on the, for example, a block, now the value should be home and / and the label and the second right here, it should be block and then / block, right? You get the idea. So how do we do that? So anyway, we're going to create another file inside the lib. So I'm going to create a lib folder. So let's create breadcrumbs.ts file. So first I'm going to create the interface of the breadcrumb item is going to be have a label and href, right? And then I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call the function generate breadcrumb. And then in here, I'm going to take a path name, right? And this function, it should be export. So we can use that function like this. And then this function, it should be returning the breadcrumb item type in array like this. And this path name, it should be have type string. So for example, in here, I'm going to return, right? Let's go back to breadcrumb component, and I just want to cut this array and then try to just return in here as an example. So now we can go back to breadcrumb, and what I'm going to do in here is basically let's try to set the breadcrumb set equals to what the function we create in here, generate breadcrumb. So we need to import that in this component like this. So now, of course, this is just do the same thing. As you can see, it's still working. We need to send path name in this function, basically. So the way we get the path name is we can use usePathname a function from the next navigation. So I'm going to show you first the path name value. So let's do path name. And then if I inspect, as you can see, we have the error right here. I'm not sure what happened. That's because we're not using client component, because this is a hooks, right? So we can change the component here into the client, use client. Now, as you can see, it should be clean. Here we go. I'm going to open my console and let's take a look at the value of these path name. Now we on the / block, right? If I open the detail of the block, now we on the / block / the title of the block. So this is basically what we are gonna get, right? And we are gonna send that on this generate breadcrumb function. So let's try to send this string like this. So the first thing what we're gonna do now is we are going to change this string right here, right? The path name string into array so we can manipulate the value. So in here, I'm going to use path name.split the / and then I'm going to filter by Boolean. So if the value is true, this will be becoming the array. So let's try to console log that. Segments, and as you can see, now we have a block / getting started Next.js, right? If I go back to the all product, we on the products. If I go to the specific categories, we on the products / electronics, for example. So that's what we want, because as you can see on the value here, there is no home, right? So we are going to add home by default in here. So I'm going to put the breadcrumb, right? The type is breadcrumb item, and then the value by default is have a label home and href / That's the value by default. So next, I'm going to create variable with let called current path. The reason I use let because next I'm going to make sure I change the value of this variable. And then in here, I'm going to for loop the value of the segments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for let I set equals to 0. If I is less than segment.length, I'm going to increment the I. So in here, I'm going to just change the current path into / segment and then the index. So this is basically will get this value right here as a product or electronic or etc. and adding / on the front of that tags, right? So the next thing is I also want to get the segment. So the segment should be set equals to segments and then the index, right? Without the /. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push new object value on the breadcrumb array. The way we do that is pretty simple. As you can see in here, I'm going to say breadcrumb. This is array, right? and I'm gonna push this object right here because this is inside the for loop. Of course, this will have the value, whatever the value is, for example, product, electronics, and etc. And here I'm gonna make sure the label, it should be come from the, for example, segment for now, right? And now we have breadcrumb value. If I console log after for loop, let's try to just return that. Okay, breadcrumb. And then I think I just want to console log that first so you can see the value. As you can see, now we have 3 value. And in here we have the home, right? For label home, we on the href. For the label products, we have / products. And then for the electronics, we have the product / electronics. That's what we want, right? Pretty cool. So I just want to remove the return in here. So now let's take a look at the result. Here I own the electronics category. We have the home, product, electronics, pretty cool. If I go to gaming for laptop, as you can see, we own the home, product, electronics, and laptop 1 to 3. So if I go back on the home and click the block, as you can see, we're on the home block. And then if I click the detail of the block, we have the title right here as well. Pretty cool. So now basically I like to, for example, change the breadcrumb value in here. The way we do that is you can just play around with the segment index in here. You can make the uppercase and etc. But I'm going to show you the way that we can change that text to whatever we want. For example, the block, I'm going to change that to post, for example. We can create another function to do that in here. I'm going to create function. I'm going to call this format segment label that have a segment, right? Segment value in here as a parameter. This should be a string, and this function, it's also return a string as a label, right? So here I'm going to first create an object. So here, as you can see, I create static route label object, right? This object is basically for the products with lowercase. I change that to product with capital P in here. For the block, I'm going to change that, for example, to post in here. I can do that. All right. If the static route label dot segment is have a value, just return that value in here. So let's try to call this format segment label. So we can say cons, and then I'm going to do label set equals to format segment label and paste the segment value in here. And then we need to just put the label set equals to label like this. Because we have same name, it's fine to just use label like this. So let's take a look at the result. Now we have home post, right, with capital P right here. But now we don't have the getting started Next.js because it's not available in this object, by the way. So I'm going to create the default label right here. As you can see, it is basically the default. Capitalize and replace dash with space. This will split the dash and then change that to the uppercase of the first character and then join with space basically. So let's take a look. Here the result, right? Because we have getting dash started dash Next.js, it will change that into getting started Next.js. That's what I want. I can just change this post back to block. If I want, as you can see, it works basically. If I go to all products, electronics, and this one right here, it works, right? The first I'm going to change is if I on the pwn 456 page, I like to this pwn 456 breadcrumb, it should be have another styling. So now inside the li tag in here, I'm gonna put this condition, right? If the index is equal to breadcrumb.length decrement by 1, it should be using this span right here that have underline, and else I'm gonna use just the normal length right here. So that's why I'm gonna copy this one and just paste that like this. So if the page is active, the breadcrumb is using this styling right here with underline. So let's take a look. If I on the pwn 456, this will be have underline. If I go back to product, now the product have underline like this, right? That's what we want. And I like to basically create like SVG right in here. I'm going to go back to the code, and then in here, I'm going to paste this right here. If the index is more than 0, I'm going to add this SVG right here. You can use Lucid React icon in here, is whatever you want. So let's try to save that. And as you can see here, this is what we have, right? It's not look better. So that's why we are gonna add class name on this li in here. So class name, I'm gonna make sure it should be have inline flex and the item should be on the center. And as you can see, this is the result. We have a product here. I can just click the product category and etc. Right? That's pretty cool, right? But as you can see, the space is not look nice for now, but on the small size is better, right? So let's try to fix that issue. Here I'm gonna say background to red 400 just to kind of see. As you can see, this is the result. If I on the large screen, is basically will adding also the space right here. I'm gonna remove that. Let's try to see. Here we go. I think it's fine to just using space X to 1 in here. So now this is the result, right? I can click product, electronics, and etc. This is basically works. Let's go to detail of the blog and detail of the product right here. And anyway, this is working pretty nice. All right, so I think we're done with this breadcrumb tutorial, and I hope you can just create your own breadcrumb with your project. And I hope this video is helpful. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video.